So we're live. I gotta take it. I haven't. It's Google's
so
got
hard on this.
a way of letting me know we're live. Because honestly, it's like I feel like we're live. The little yellow button isn't live. But anyway, here we're at. I guess we're live. Welcome back to Drawn by Success.
We wanted this to work so badly this time. Did you see me sitting there all quiet?
I don't know if it's us or if it's Google, but in either case, welcome to Drawn by Success. What's the name of the place? Drawn by Success? I can't even speak.
I know.
Welcome to Drawn by Success. I'm Carlos Castellanos, and I'm the co-creator of the Baldo comic strip. And with me today, I have my buddy Bob Ostrom.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's been a little while since we've been together, Carlos.
We've been speaking weekly. It's just we haven't done the show in a while. We've been kind of busy. Actually, we're working on a project together, so yeah, a lot of irons in the fire. So we're busy.
Yeah, fun times. I just had a really nice visit from my family last weekend, so yeah, I'm ready to get back into things. So today
we're full gear into summer here, so all my kids are home, and that's been part of the problem too. Is that getting reacclimated to this new schedule, this new summer schedule with everybody home. So
yeah, definitely.
It's taking some getting used to. By the time I get a handle on it, school will be back in full in full force, and then I'll have to get used to a different schedule. But
yeah, they have to get back into all that stuff again.
Right.
Yeah. So well, here we are. We're back, and so I was talking with you earlier in the week, and I mentioned that I was doing a little write-up for a presentation I'm getting ready to give at the Society of Children's Book Illustrators, and writers would be angry with me. Let me say that again. The Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. But I'm going to be giving a little presentation, and I wanted to talk about marketing with them. And one of the things that usually happens when I bring up marketing with artists is we get that sort of deer in the headlights look, where they kind of panic, and then they look around and think like, marketing, oh, let's not talk about that, and then that's usually followed up with the single most used sentence I hear from any artist about marketing, which is, my marketing sucks. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today while it was fresh on my mind. And as I was talking with you, you opened up a whole bunch of different doors. And I realized that, well, it's really difficult to boil this thing down to, to simple step-by-step kind of ideas. But I thought maybe today we could bring up a few things, talk to people about them, let them know, what kind of strategies we're using, and see if maybe we can, give them a couple of things to walk away with. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, these are questions we get quite a bit via email, and a lot of our listeners and people that visit the blog, we all deal with the same thing. It's not that the whole marketing nest is not is something you mentioned that a lot of people aren't happy with their marketing. I don't think we're ever really truly happy with our marketing. There's so many things to implement in your marketing and so many different things to plug in and try, and not the same thing. Not everything's going to work for everybody the same way. It kind of depends on who your market is and the form of marketing you're doing. So it's important to kind of give different things a try and be able to track what you're doing and see what's working for you versus what may not be working for somebody else or whatever. You can't just say something's not working because it doesn't work for someone else.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so we put together a little list of things that maybe we could talk about today, and then I'm sure we'll revisit this at another time. This is a really huge topic, and when you get right down to it, marketing is could be a full-time job for you. If you weren't busy creating art, you could spend the rest of your time marketing, and probably one of the biggest mistakes I see is a lot of people just kind of set their marketing aside and don't realize how important that is to run their business. So if you're not marketing yourself, I think you're going to find yourself in trouble sooner or later. So let's take a look at the list that we put together, and maybe we'll start with the easy stuff, and then work our way up to the more complicated stuff.
More a little complicated. And we're not going to get into real. I mean, there's a lot of things. This is a big, vast subject. So we're just going to touch on a couple of things that we feel that probably are the simplest things that you guys may not be implementing, that you can implement, and it'll probably have the biggest impact. In terms of getting more clients or getting at least more leads to your illustration or design service, whatever it is that you're providing.
Right, right. So I thought today we would start with the website, which is basically your window to the world, right? So when people come to your website, there are a couple of things that you need to have on there to help people get in touch with you and figure out, how to work with you. And I know we kind of, had one of these listed, but I think maybe we could group a couple of them together here because they're pretty simple things. And I think that if you sat down and just did these things, you could get them done in under an hour, So the first one that I wanted to talk about was making it easy to hire you, right? So we need to get your contact information on there right up front. You had mentioned this earlier where you said, a lot of people are shy about putting their phone number on there, but you're a business, right? So get your phone number on there.
Yeah, I've seen this quite a bit where illustrators will just have like a form, and they don't have any number or anything like that, no email, no telephone number, just a form where people can put in their information and request a quote or just request time to have a conversation. And their rationale usually is that they don't want to have their information out there. Well, you're a business. It's your job to have your information out there. It's not like if you're trying to hide yourself and then complaining that no one can find you. There's a problem there. So make it easy for people to get in touch with you. Not everyone wants to have to fill out a form before they speak to you.
That's right. Yeah,
some people are just very old school. They want to pick up the phone and be able to talk to somebody. That goes a long way in developing trust, or just feeling that trust from the other party. They want to be able to feel like they can just pick up a phone and just talk with somebody. If you don't have your phone number on your site, I guarantee you there's a lot of people that are not taking the time to fill out that form and are just moving on to somebody else.
Yeah, that's just it. You never realize how much business you're losing because you never, nobody ever reaches out to you and says, hey, where's your phone number or whatever. They're just onto the next guy's site.
Who has on to somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. So get the contact info up there. Make it really easy. Make it as easy as you possibly can. It's great to have a contact form on there, but get the number up there too. Have a little article about how to hire you. What kind of things people need to do in order to get in touch with you. So we talked about this a couple times before, but this one is it really works. A lot of times you'll get people who are new to your site, or maybe they haven't worked with an artist before or whatever. So if you can get up a little thing that talks about your work process, I think that, again, this is that trust thing that you were just mentioning.
Set up a page or even a download PDF that people, because not all of your clients, and again, depending on the kind of people that you're working with, you may be working with art directors that are already used to working with creative people, so they know how to approach artists and designers and that kind of thing. But sometimes you may be working with an independent business, a marketing department or something that maybe doesn't have a lot of experience working with and approaching illustrators. So you want to make it easy for them, give them an outline of what to expect, and manage those expectations.
Yeah, and throw in a couple of samples of work processes that you've completed and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that one is going to be really simple, and that's something that you can get done in an hour or two. Maybe if you need to write a little article, add another hour to that. But you can have that one done pretty quickly. That's not something that's going to take a long time to build up, and it's necessary. So I think I really wanted to bring that one up today because that's one of the first things that I see when I go to artist's website is, where's your contact info? How do we get in touch with you? I want to work with you, but it's like it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack trying to get in touch with you. So make it simple, and then help guide people through your process, through your work process.
Make your contact info like an Easter egg hunt.
yeah, right. Like Cedric was talking about. All right, so I think that's the first step. That's the one that's going to make things a little bit easier for you and for your clients. The second one was setting up a process. Do you want to talk a little bit about the process? Because I think you got a better handle on this one than I do. We were talking about this before the show.
Well, this is a more complicated issue than just a couple of tips on marketing. I mean, but in terms of marketing what you do, you want to be able to have some kind of a sales process in the works so that you know. In other words, you analyze in the past, and again, this depends on your experience. If you've been working 1 or 2 years, or if you've been working for the last 10 years as a freelancer, working your own business. But analyze what the process is when a potential client gives you a call. What's the process that you take them through? We had talked about the last time about pre-qualifying questions when you speak to people, just to know if they're the right kind of client for you. Just because they're calling you doesn't mean that they're just interviewing you. You're also interviewing them to find out that they're the right fit for you. And that's the way I look at it. Whenever a client calls me, I don't feel like, oh my God, a client, let me bend over backwards and just try to sell them, or try to make me the person that they hire. It's also about, are they the right fit for me? Are they the right client for me? Are they the kind of person that I want to work with? Whether in terms of the kind of work, the quality work that they're doing, or the type of work that they're doing, even the value that they see in what I'm supplying them. If they think that this is something that I could just knock out in a few minutes while I'm eating my Oreos in the afternoon, that's not someone who's going to, value what I'm doing a whole lot. So, it's all of that, and it's looking at pre-qualifying, writing those quotes, how often, how many days are going to go by before you check in with them. We had talked about, like, when you speak to a client, never leave it in their court. You don't say, well, okay, well, get back to me when you're ready, or whatever. You say, okay, well, I'll call you Friday, or I'll call you next Tuesday, and and touch base with you and see where we're at. That way, you're in control, and it gives you a reason, and you're already letting them know to expect a call from you on such and such date, versus sitting back and waiting. Because what happens is then you don't get a call, and then you're wanting to call them, and then you feel weird calling them because they told you they would call you, and all that kind of baloney. So anyway, just getting a handle on that process. From there, then, if they do become a client, what's the process that you take them through in developing that relationship and working the project all the way through? So having that sales process is really important, so that you're not reinventing the wheel. And I think that this comes back to also pricing. When we've talked about this before, where artists don't have a real good handle on their pricing, so they're having to, like, reinvent the wheel every time they talk to a new client.
Yeah. And
they feel like they're picking a number out of their hats. So they feel like they're picking some random number out of the air, and they don't feel comfortable with it. So
right.
Again, take yourself through that process, so that when you're on the phone talking to a client or face to face, you're confident in what you're talking about, because you've already been through it. You've analyzed it, and you've making notes of the different phases and the different questions and the different objections that might come up. So you feel a whole lot more comfortable in having that conversation. You make the client feel more comfortable, like you've done this before, and having a system in place is just really, really key. And we'll get back to a system. To the conversation of systems later, when we'll talk about another aspect of this.
Yeah, well, you mentioned something really important there, which is, giving people the impression that you've done this before. That talks to that trust issue again too. So when when somebody's getting ready to spend a substantial amount of money on you or your service, I think it's important that you convey some confidence there. And they feel like they are making a good investment with you.
Yeah, and that's the key right there, Bob. I mean, we talk about with my coaching clients, we talk about how to raise their rates and all that kind of stuff. This is a huge part of it, because if you think about it, when you go to a crowdsourcing site, or you're dealing with someone who maybe hasn't dealt with creative people, hiring creative people a whole lot, if they're looking to not spend a whole lot of money, they're willing to accept and work with someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience. Okay, right. The trade-off is, they're going to be working with someone who doesn't have the experience and may lack a little bit of professionalism, but they're going to save some money up front. If you're getting a client who wants not to deal with the issues that come with someone who doesn't have the experience, or someone who hasn't been working that long, and want to go through those mistakes and wants to avoid all those things, they're willing to pay more, but they're also looking for that confidence that that professional provides, because it makes him feel secure that he's making the right hire. So not everyone is looking to hire someone cheap, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are looking to hire at a higher rate, a financial rate where they're willing to pay more, but they need to know that what they're getting from the creative is the confidence that they've done this before and that they're not going to be bothered with a lot of hassles and a lot of mistakes and a lot of back and forth, and they're paying you for your experience, and you need to reflect that. So if you're not reflecting that, chances are you're going to attract the lower paying clients, which is what a lot of creatives do.
Yeah, and then I've heard people who had, who have had problems with pricing issues and that kind of thing. So I think it's a good idea to work that stuff all out ahead of time before you get back in touch with anybody. But the key here, I think, is like you said, giving that feeling of confidence, like they've made a good decision. You know how it is. You go to let's say you go to a car dealer or something. You want to work with somebody who is established, not a shady fly-by-night operation.
Right.
You don't want somebody who's going to be flaky on you, that kind of stuff. So I think having this stuff together and in a professional way really goes a long way towards saying that, hey, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to work with you. You're going to have a good experience when you work with me, and you're going to probably want to come back and work with me again.
Right. And actually, you can think, because I can see it right now. There's probably people out here that are thinking, well, maybe I don't have to go through that, but I can fake my confidence. The confidence comes from knowing that you've been through that system and you're familiar with your system.
Yeah.
That's where the confidence comes from. It's like almost like from public speaking or something like that. Confidence doesn't come from reading a book and say, okay, I know what it is to be a successful public speaker. No, the confidence comes from being in front of the room and actually doing it. So in terms of getting your system in place, you really need to go through your system, be really familiar with your system, and tweak it as you go and improve it as you go, obviously, but be familiar with the system that you have in place, and that's what's going to give you the confidence. That's really what's going to come across to your client.
Yeah, I learned something important from a good buddy of mine, Chris Wilson, and he had put together a checklist, and his checklist would be either, he'd have it written out either like on Google Docs or something like that. He would just go through it systematically, one step at a time, just to make sure he didn't leave anything out, just to make sure that he was doing everything that he needed to do. And I adopted that system a while ago too, and it works great, because there are times when sometimes you'll glaze over something or you'll forget something that you're supposed to be doing. If you get a little checklist in front of you, it makes it real simple. Have all your information.
You have to sit there and remember it when you can easily make a list that you can revisit constantly.
Yeah, so keep that handy, and then if you need to have a PDF ready to go, so if somebody calls and they say, hey, can you give me a little bit more information about your business? Bang, the PDF's ready to go. You just send it right to them, that kind of stuff. So, rather than reinventing that every time the phone rings, which is, is a means to an end. Yeah, so that I like that one. There's one thing I think that that goes along with this. We were talking about setting up a schedule. Scheduling time to get in touch with people and that kind of thing. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to get into? You had mentioned, finding new contacts and things like this. I'm thinking maybe should we do the scheduling first, or do you want to?
Well, let's do the scheduling, and the other one we'll keep for last, so we don't run too long. But yeah, set a schedule. It's probably and all these things are probably things that you've heard before, and I've got a bad habit of doing this myself. When I hear something that I've heard before, I say, oh, yeah, I already know that, but I'm not doing it. So if you're not doing it and you've heard it before, kick yourself in the arse and say to yourself, it's new to me. Because if you heard it before but you're not using it, you're not doing it, it's new to you. So yeah, set a schedule. That's probably the most basic thing I think that we all do, or we are told to do, is set a schedule for everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're pretty good about setting schedules for artwork, keeping everything, so we can deliver our work on deadline. But set a schedule also for your marketing. Whatever it is, if it's only a week, an hour a week, whatever it happens to be for you. I don't think an hour a week is enough, but if that's all you have, then set a schedule for that. And figure out where you're getting the results from. Try to track that, whether it be social media, email marketing, direct mail pieces, whatever it happens to be for you.
Right.
Make a schedule to do that, and then try to stick to it as best you can.
Yeah, and I mean, things are going to come up, but this is one of those things where you've got automated systems to remind you. Set up a calendar and just have it chime in every, whenever, a day or every other day or whatever, and says, hey, it's time for this. Do you remember this? You're supposed to be doing this.
Right.
And then, follow through with it. So don't just turn your alarm off and forget about it.
A cool tip that I read about 2 weeks ago, and I guess I'll share this. This just came up. Okay. In terms of setting a schedule, and I guess your to-do list is part of your schedule of things that you need to be doing at a certain time of your day. I read an article where it talked about most people's to-do list is, send out a mailer or call a client or, do 3 loads of laundry. Whatever it happens to be.
Don't forget the milk.
No, right. But it's not really like exciting stuff. It's almost like, something that you almost dread looking at. It's like, oh, these are things I have to do. And it's funny because they said instead of stating the items that you need to do as stuff that you have to that are demanded on you to do.
Right.
Put it in form of a question or a challenge. So in other words, can you call one client today? And as opposed to call a client today. Call a client today means, oh, you start dreading it already.
Right. No, I love that.
Client today really kind of frames it differently in your own mind as more of a challenge.
Yeah.
It almost unconsciously kind of gets you almost to like, I think I can call a client today. It's almost like a little challenge. So instead of laying out all your to-do lists as do this, do that, do this, challenge yourself. Can you do this? Can you do 3 loads of laundry today? Can you call one client today? How many new clients can you identify today? Versus go to LinkedIn and identify 2 clients. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes a big difference. And I've started utilizing that in my own life here, personally and professionally, and it makes a huge difference. It really does.
I think that's a great one. I love that. I'm gonna one up you on that. Here's what I'm going to say. Preface it by saying, you are a rock star. Can you contact one client today?
There you go. Exactly. But can you see the difference? It makes a big difference in how you perceive what you need to do.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll call that the Castellanos Challenge.
So if nothing else, take that one and run with it, and then let us know what happens.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it, because that makes it so much more. What's the word I'm looking for? Just so much easier, The other way is sort of like, did you do your chores today?
Right. Exactly. One is more nagging.
Call the client. Take out the garbage. Yeah, this one is.
And the challenge one to me is almost like it becomes more like a game. Can you do this today?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think it almost sets up that little challenge. So.
Why? I think I can.
Yeah, I think I can.
I think I could do that. I love that. Well, let's talk. This is the one I wanted to spend just another second with, and kind of get into. You had talked about finding new clients, and a lot of people are very passive about this, but you tend to be you're kind of a little bit more to the point with this. You're not afraid to make a call or to get in touch with somebody. Let's talk a little bit about this one. And we're talking about finding new clients or identifying new clients and getting in touch with them, rather than kind of casting out your net and hoping something swims into it. You're actually going after these guys. Talk a little bit about that and what your process is there.
Well, before we go into that, let's recap what we've got already. We got the contact info. Mm-hmm. We got the set your schedule.
Right.
And what was the last one?
Well, we had the process. Setting up your process and making sure that it's very professional and you follow through with it and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the bonus one, which was the reframing the question.
Reframe
your schedule. Setting up your.
Okay.
So here we are. So now it's time to this is where the rubber meets the road. We got to get some new clients. How are we going to get new clients?
We hadn't intended to really talk about this, but just before making this recording, we just got into this a little bit.
Yeah.
and you wanted to touch on it a little bit. Now, this is kind of a vast conversation, but we're going to kind of cut it short, but just to give you an idea, we were talking about the marketing end of it, and we were talking about how I've been off of social media for probably the last 3 or 4 weeks. I haven't really been on it too much, just because I've been really, really busy. I mean, to be perfectly honest, not because I'm like down on social media or anything. It's just that I've been really busy, and I haven't had time to. I've just put my time and energy elsewhere. And we've been working on a project for the last several weeks, and we were talking about how do I get the new clients and what I've been spending my time on versus the social media, and how the rewards and the benefits that I get from doing that, and the energy that I put in doing that in that manner really gives me better results, quite frankly, and it just saves me a whole lot of time. And basically what I do is, if someone gets in touch with me via LinkedIn, what I will do is I will follow up and start reading about their business. And it's usually like, a business owner or something like that. I'm not talking about other artists or something, but someone that I see that maybe I can help or assist them in some way in their business, or just if I find their business interesting. I'll look into their business and find out what they do. I'll do as much research as I can. I'm talking, I'm not talking about days or weeks. I'm talking about, maybe 15 minutes researching, their background and what they're involved in, who they're associating with, who their partners are, who might know them that I already know,
Sure.
Commonalities, and I will reach out to them, and I'll when I accept them into my circle or my network, I'll just start a conversation with them, and I'll start a conversation if they're. I tend to work, just so you know, I tend to work with a lot of independent businesses. I don't work with a lot of publishing companies anymore. I don't work with a lot of ad agencies anymore. I work more directly with businesses, and sometimes they're smaller businesses, but I stay away from the smaller businesses that can't afford my rates. So they have to be. There's got to be an understanding of value there in terms of what I can supply to help them market their businesses and so forth. So, but what I deal with is primarily businesses, entrepreneurs. So I will open up the conversation and start talking to them about their own businesses and what they're doing, and they're obviously curious about what I do. So we just start a conversation, and typically from that conversation, it almost always, I'd probably say 75% of the time, it leads to, well, how can we work together? How, that what you do sounds interesting. How would you be able to? This is what I do. How would you be able to help me accomplish, this goal or that goal? Mm-hmm. And we'll start talking about it there. So you're talking about maybe, a process that all in all maybe takes 30 minutes, maybe 15 minutes on the front end researching somebody, and maybe another 15 minutes, going back and forth and talking to somebody about their businesses and what they're doing, and they're asking me what I do, and just it's more questions, that I'm asking. I'm not trying to sell anybody. I'm just being curious about their business. And in that process, they begin to trust me. They see that what I do is interesting, and that maybe it can be applied to what they're trying to that it can be applied as a benefit to what they're trying to achieve, and we start that conversation there. So it almost always goes in that direction, and I never feel like I'm hard selling anybody. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. I made a great connection, and we leave it at that. And a lot of times they have partners that they'll refer to me that might be interested in going that route, to create some creative resources for their marketing. I just got in touch with, I think I told you earlier, there's this girl that I met through Toastmasters. And Toastmasters usually brings a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds, executives and professional people. So she's a trainer. She's a professional sales trainer working with a company down here in South Florida. So anyway, I've been talking to her back and forth, and there's a lot of commonalities. I like sales, and I like the process of systems and all that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of things that we could talk about that were in common. And she was talking about the business that she works for, the consulting business that she works for, and they do consulting and sales training and stuff like that for different large corporations. And they invited me to this luncheon that they have once a month. for executives and stuff like that. So in that conversation, it turns out that there's a possibility that there might be a good fit between what I do and what they're trying to achieve in terms of either their own marketing or marketing for the people that they're training. So I'll be going to this thing, and it's going to probably open up, the opportunity to do some more work there. So again, it's just about networking. It's about picking up the phone and just talking to people and being inquisitive about what they do. Obviously, if you're into editorial illustration and that's what you do, or if you're a children's book illustrator, how you go about things is going to be a little different because the outcome and what they need is a little different.
Sure.
But in terms of my efforts and the energy that I put out, that's what I choose to do, and that's where I get the best results, is when I just pick up the phone and start making contacts with people and just start talking to people about what they do, what they're looking to achieve, and in the conversation, of course, they'll ask me what I'm doing and how what I'm doing can affect what they're doing and help them achieve their goals, and the conversation just goes from there and usually leads to a project. So from my own personal perspective, it's just a lot easier just to identify a client that I want to work with, and touch base and create that relationship and go from there, versus spitting out a lot of information, a lot of marketing out there to the general public, or even to it shouldn't just be to the general public. It should be a very focused, targeted market. But even doing that, the percentage of people that are actually going to need your service at a very particular time is very narrow. So, but I feel that approaching it this way, once you've got that one-on-one relationship and you're speaking to somebody, whether it be face-to-face or on the phone, it doesn't matter, the chances go up really dramatically that they'll be able to use you. That even if they didn't consider or weren't thinking of hiring you for a specific project, during that conversation, it becomes something enticing for them, and they want to give it a shot.
All right. Well, let's back up just a half a step, because I want to talk about the beginning process. I'm sure a lot of people are probably thinking about this, and they're like, he picks up the phone and calls people? So I want to talk about the introductory process, the thing that gets the ball rolling. I think this is where a lot of us stumble. So you hop on LinkedIn, you find somebody who you think that this guy does some interesting stuff. How do you get from this guy does interesting stuff to picking up the phone and saying, hey, can I talk to this guy, or can we talk for a minute, or that kind of thing? What's the in-between process? Because I think that's where a lot of the magic lies. Is how do you go from I like what this guy does to hey, let's talk, or let's have lunch, or whatever the process is where you get into these conversations. But I think that's where the stumbling block is for a lot of people.
Well, here's the thing. I approach people sometimes that I don't know, right? But typically what will happen is that people will approach me to add them to their network.
Sure.
And in that process, they've made the first move. They've contacted me. Yeah. So that kind of overcomes that first little hurdle, being approached by someone that you don't know.
Right.
So I typically wait, and I get invitations to LinkedIn, I don't know, I guess 10 a day or something like that. So I'll usually look at the people that are requesting that I get into their network, and I'll look them up. So they've already made the first move, and then I start doing the research and start looking at maybe people that we have in common. So it's just basically about building that trust with someone. If they've made the first move, it's not a big deal that I go ahead and contact them. It's not that far off, right? I mean, it's a lot different than if I just tried to contact somebody without them knowing who the hell I am.
So is your first contact an email response, or is it a phone call?
No. The first contact, usually, if I go through LinkedIn or something like that, it's just a note through LinkedIn. I'll respond quickly to their invitation, right, and I'll send them a message. Hey, thank you for requesting blah blah blah. I noticed that you do this, and whatever it is. I've already looked into it a little bit.
Sure.
So I'll start letting them know that I'm familiar with what they do, or their company, or their work that they're doing, or their promotions that they're doing, and that's what starts building the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I just said, hey, thanks for inviting me to your network, that's kind of the end of the conversation.
Right.
But I do a little bit of research up front, know what they're up to, know what they've been up to, know maybe some people that looked into maybe some people that we both have in common, and mention a couple of those things to start developing that level of trust in that first contact. And then they'll usually get back to me, and that's where the conversation starts. So then at that point, if it turns out that through those couple of text messages that there's something that we might be able to work together on, then that's usually where they'll say, well, here's my number, give me a call, and we'll talk about it a little in depth. So basically, the conversation, we lay the groundwork with commonalities. I've done my research. I let them know that I'm familiar with who they are and what they're working on, or some of their clients are. And from there, once the conversation gets to a point where, okay, this is require more than just texting back and forth, give me a call, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
It's really nothing mysterious. I mean, it's I guess it's like the way old people used to do it in the old back in the day. I don't know.
Back in the day when you used to travel around a bit. Yeah, no, I get that. I think it's just good to unravel that mystery a little bit, because I think a lot of people I talk to tend to be introverted people, and it's hard for them to reach out. So you've already got the conversation rolling before anything happens, which is, I think, the answer to that question. It's sort of, I would equivalent this maybe to being at a cocktail party or something and just walking up and saying, hey, how you doing? My name is, Carlos, and I like your shirt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier if they're approaching you, obviously, because
yeah.
if you approach them, it's kind of a given. They're looking for your response. So,
Right.
But let's say, okay, you say, well, nobody approaches me on LinkedIn. No one invites me into their network. What can I do? Well, identify different people, or look through the people that you already have in your. I mean, this is the function of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Look at the people that you already have, and make it, talking about setting a schedule, make it a point to go through like 5 people a day in your network that you probably, most of us have hundreds of people in our network, that in our LinkedIn network, for example, that we don't even know, we've probably never even heard of them. We probably don't even know who they are.
Right.
People invite us to be part of their network. We say yes, and we don't even bother to see who they really are or what they do. So make it a point to maybe go through 5 people in your network on LinkedIn and see who they know, see what kind of businesses they're in. And if you see someone that they know that might be interesting, that you don't know, ask for the connection. And right there, even if you go about it that way, at least you have that third party in common. You say, hey, so-and-so, I'm can you make this introduction for me? And they'll introduce you, and then there you go. Now you have a conversation started.
Yeah, that's great. There are a lot of conversation starters on there, and you just made me think of one that our buddy Fion uses a lot. Is that he'll get a what do they call those things? Like an endorsement, where they do like the little, I recommend whatever for whatever,
Right.
It'll say like, is Carlos good at illustration? And you click yes, and then it sends you a little note that says, hey, Bob thinks you're good at illustration. Fion was talking about how he uses those as conversation starters.
Right.
So if somebody sends one to him and says, Fion is good at whatever, then he'll get back in touch with them and say, hey, thanks for doing that, and then get the ball rolling that way. Thanks for recommending me for whatever. And then this is where we can plug in your part, which is, I noticed you do this or that or whatever, and sort of start a conversation, get the ball rolling that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's great. I think that's something I'm going to add to my schedule. I'll put that on my schedule this week. So rather than making this a Marketing 101 course that will go on for the next 3 hours, I think this is a great place to just kind of cut things off, and we'll save a little bit more of it maybe for the next time we get together, or maybe we can do an actual show where we get into a little bit more depth on this. But this was something that was on the front of my mind as I was preparing my presentation, and I thought that it would be a good thing to bring up, because we see this time and time again, So I'm really glad we had a chance to talk about this stuff today.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. I mean, if it helps somebody, and again, if you've heard this stuff before, and you're not doing it, it's new to you. So go out and use it.
Put it on your schedule. And ask yourself, can you do this today?
Excellent. Well, I hope you guys found this worthwhile and got something of value out of today's conversation. We certainly hope so. It's been a few weeks since we've been together, so hopefully our work schedule will settle down a little bit. We'll be able to get back on track on these, what are they called, Friday Hangouts?
Yeah, we missed you guys. We missed you guys. We were used to getting in touch with you every Friday, but yeah, sometimes things come up and so we get busy. But I love getting a chance to kind of sit down and talk about this stuff because I think that this is the kind of thing that that really motivates me, and when I can talk to people about it and help share this kind of information, I think it's really great, So it's good getting together with you again, Carlos.
Yeah, likewise, Bob. We'll look forward to covering some more topics and maybe scheduling some more interviews in the coming weeks. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions regarding what we're talking about today, leave them in the comments section. We'll try to get some comments back to you and reply to whatever your questions might be, and see if we can make any clarifications. If you have anything that'll add to the list, please do so. I mean, we can all learn from each other, so that's what we're here.
I'm going to throw out a little challenge this week. How's this, Carlos? Okay, here's my challenge.
What for a challenge? Go.
Here's my challenge. If you find me on LinkedIn, start a conversation with me. How's that? There you go. There's my challenge.
So there you go. Look up Bob and just start asking him silly questions all day so you can...
You can ask me silly questions if you want, or you can ask me real questions. I'm up for either one. So.
He's cool. Yeah, so look up Bob and friend him up on LinkedIn, or look me up on LinkedIn and and make a connection there. You never know where it'll lead.
You never know. So that's great. Okay, well, let's wrap it up for today then, Carlos.
All right, so Bob, where can people find you, sir?
People can find me at bobteachesart.com. I will be starting up some new classes very soon. I've got some really fun stuff planned over there, so come check it out.
Excellent.
Hey, Carlos, where do people find you?
People can, of course, find me on Drawn by Success. The only place where I want you to find me is on Drawn by Success. You can look at my Baldo comic strip at baldocomics.com / no, it's just baldocomics.com now. So anyway, you can find the comic strip there. You can find me on gocomics.com / Baldo, or you can, if you want to talk to me about the business side of art and pricing, marketing, whatever's on your mind, you can email me at carlos@drawnbysuccess.com, and of course visit us on drawnbysuccess.com. We're also got a couple of programs that we've gotten in the works. We got a little sidetracked, but we've got something on pricing that we're working on. I've had a few listeners and people that have gotten in touch with me that are interested in possibly a group coaching environment, and that would require me taking my one-on-one coaching and kind of changing it around a little bit so that we can have it apply to a group environment. So that's something I'm considering. I've got a couple of people waiting in the wings that are waiting for me to roll that out. So if anyone is interested, we'll get a sales page up and all that kind of stuff up hopefully in the next week or so. But if you're interested in that, drop me a line at carlos@drawnbysuccess.com. Let me know that you're interested in the group coaching, and we'll go over some of the details. There will be more information on that later. I haven't jumped on that just because I've been kind of busy. I've got too many.
I hear you. Yeah.
Too many spinning plates on those little sticks going on right now. So.
Sometimes you got to focus on the ones that are getting ready to crash first. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So. And that's the beauty, I think, of you and I getting together, Bob, is like, there's a lot of people out there that talk about marketing and talk about this and talk about that, but that's kind of all they do. We're kind of working in the trenches. We're kind of doing the same thing you're doing. We've been in the business for over 26 years, 27 years, whatever the hell it is now. And, we're constantly working. We're in it, doing it, and we're kind of sharing what works with you guys. So
so that we're trying to make this sort of a learn from the pros kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also you guys could find us on LinkedIn. So there you go.
Do a Google search, you'll find us.
So come find us on LinkedIn and start a conversation. I love it when people do that. So.
All right, excellent. All right, Bob. It's been a pleasure, sir. We'll get together again next week.
Sounds
and
good.
For all of you joining us, thank you for sharing your valuable time this Friday with us. We appreciate it. We know that sometimes you've got other things going on, and for you to take the time to watch these, it's important for us, and hopefully it's worthwhile for you. So, see you guys the next time around.
Okay, see you. Yep.
Later, sir. Are we still on?
See that little live button up in the right-hand corner?